Final Fantasy VII was the best-selling Final Fantasy game of all time. All time! With this one game, the series went from being a niche RPG series to one of the most popular franchises in all of gaming. All of a sudden, people who never played the previous games were now highly anticipating the 8th entry. And certainly for me, beyond commercials that I would see on TV, I was entering that age where I was finally starting to read gaming magazines, as well as watch television shows dedicated to gaming.
Everybody wants to know about Final Fantasy VIII. It was a huge launch in Japan. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Well, sold 2.5 million copies the first day, which I think set a new record.
2.5 million?
Yeah. I think they were lined up around the block.
How does it feel to be the president of the company releasing Final Fantasy VIII?
I'm exhausted.
So I was there for the initial hype wave, because I loved 7. Anytime we'd see new things from 8, I would get so damn excited, looking at every screenshot, trying to catch PlayStation demo discs that might have a trailer or something. I was just counting the days. I mean, this was 1999, the year of Final Fantasy VIII and Star Wars Episode I, The Phantom Menace. Oh, those were simpler times. Eventually, Final Fantasy VIII would drop on store shelves, and just like with Final Fantasy VII, my older cousin bought the game and I played the whole thing through him. In our initial playthrough, he did what he always does with custom characters, and he named the main protagonist Bad Boy. And being 11 years old at the time, I was just like, that's so cool! We spent weeks playing Final Fantasy VIII, and we got all the way to the end. We beat the final boss, we got our happy ending, and ultimately, I had a blast. I found it pretty different and unorthodox compared to the previous games, but I still loved the music, it captured my imagination in a big way, and it was just nice to have some bonding time with my cousin. I came away very satisfied. As time went on though, I would eventually get my own copy of the game. And I definitely noticed how easy and repetitive I was finding the experience the second time around. And then I started talking to other people who played the game, and hoo boy! Final Fantasy VIII, no contest, is the most polarizing game in the series. There are tons of people who love this game, and there are tons of people who hate this game. It always feels like a coin flip whenever I bring it up to someone. Literally, before I made this video, I had friends going, ooh, I can't wait, I love that game. And I had other friends going, oof, good luck with that.
My favorite Final Fantasy is a bit controversial. I enjoyed 5, and I enjoyed 8. Go ahead, take me on. Come on.
Ray Chase, the voice of Noctis, understands. He knows what it's like to compliment 8. So, I already know the comments section for this video should be fun. And I'm gonna have a ball complimenting and critiquing this entry. Because no, I don't think this game is perfect, but I don't think it's super terrible either. I have a very mixed relationship with this title, and I'd like to share why. Like before, I'm going to be covering all the big twists of the game, so if you haven't played it and you want to go in blind, I would recommend stopping this video right now. Still on board? Then get a drink, because I'm going to talk your ear off about Final Fantasy VIII. Before we get introduced to the characters or learn what's going on, Final Fantasy VIII opens with one of the most impressive FMV cutscenes ever. Intense visuals, a collection of scenes to come, all to an incredible orchestral performance complete with a choir and everything. I fucking lost my mind watching this on the PlayStation. I mean, after the success of Final Fantasy VII, they just had carte blanche to do whatever the hell they wanted. Squaresoft at this time were the kings of cutscenes. They made some of the most beautiful and badass FMVs that you were going to see on the console, on gaming in general. And it just made video games feel that much more special because of it. I still think this is the best opening to any Final Fantasy game. That still gives me goosebumps. I mean, goddamn. So our story begins in Balam Garden, a futuristic boarding school that houses many students and serves pretty much like any other school does. It has classrooms and teachers, it has a library, it has a cafeteria which has some fantastic hot dogs, let me tell ya. You can sign up for lots of extracurricular activities, like being a part of the festival committee, or music. Why not be a hockey player? Or you can enlist to be a member of SEED, which is spelled with a capitalized D. Is it supposed to be pronounced CD, like a compact disc? Anywho, sign up to be a member of SEED, where your lucky 15-year-old can become part of a mercenary force, where they will learn how to be proficient at combat, attach mythological monsters to their soul, and be potentially hired to assassinate people or prevent all-out war. Well, that's certainly one hell of a program. And no, really, SEED is only for teenagers. You're allowed to volunteer for it at age 15, but once you turn 20 years old, you're not allowed. Maybe it's just me, but I kind of feel like immaturity might be a problem here. Either way, our story centers on Squall Leonhardt, a promising SEED candidate who is about to go on the most important field exam of his entire life. Unfortunately, before this test, he ends up getting into a sparring match with a hothead named Cypher, and Cypher doesn't pull his punches, or his sword swings. Cypher sees himself as Squall's eternal rival, probably because they use the same weapon, a sword with a revolver handle known as the Gunblade. Oh, the Gunblade. Look at this thing. I remember thinking this was the coolest thing in the world when I was a kid. Why attach a gun trigger to a sword? Well, according to the lore, pulling the trigger helps vibrate the blade, making it sharper and more deadly when you swing at something. And apparently it doesn't use ammo, so I'm not entirely sure what the trigger is doing, but hey, Final Fantasy needed to top Cloud's Buster Sword somehow. And I was absolutely down with Squall when I first saw him. As a kid with medium-length brown hair and a prominent scar that I've had on my forehead since I was a kid, this character design just screamed to me. Still kinda does, honestly. Squall and Cypher give each other some scars, so Squall has to go to the infirmary where he gets a visitor, his homeroom teacher, Quistis, a woman who is 18 years old, only 1 year older than Squall himself. Her preferred weapon is a whip, and she's also the head of the disciplinary committee, so if you step out of line, she'll punish you. And if that sounded hot, guess what? You're not the only one who thinks so, as Quistis actually has groupies in the school. Trapies forever, baby! Man, I want to go out with her. What do I need to do to get closer to thee, oh lovely Quistis? Well, apparently if you want to get close to her, you just gotta get slashed across the face, because Quistis takes Squall alone to prepare for his field exam and retrieve his first Guardian Force. I wasn't kidding about SEED members needing to attach mythological monsters to themselves. The Guardian Forces, or GFs for short, are how a SEED gets their power, and when you start off the game, you actually enter a volcanic cavern to battle with the fierce and dangerous Ifrit, who seems very surprised that you have the Ice Queen Shiva in your possession. You start the game off with 3 summons: Ifrit, Shiva, and Ramu. Wait, that's not Ramu. Quetzalcoatl? An electric bird? Hey, where's Ramu? What do you mean he's not in FF8? All the other original summons are. Well, that's weird. GFs are an integral part of being a SEED member, and they are absolutely integral when it comes to gameplay. But I'll get to that later. With Ifrit under his possession, Squall can finally attend the field exam. There he gets partnered up with Quistis, Cypher, and a martial artist named Zell. Nice tattoo, brah. Whoa, I'm with you? Well, someone's got a fan. Too bad Squall gives him the cold shoulder. Yo, Squall, show me your gunblade, will ya? Come on, man! Just a peek? Why are you being so selfish, Scrooge? Charles Dickens exists in this universe? Stop that, it's annoying. Chicken wuss. Oh shit, son! With Cypher as the squad leader, Seed are given the mission to infiltrate the city of Dalit and stop a Galbadian takeover. Galbadia being one of the dominant military forces of the world, ruling over the entire western continent. After crashing onto the beach, Cypher's company is given a direct order to secure the center of the city and stay put in case of reinforcements. So after taking on a number of armed guards, Squall, Cypher, and Zell do just that, and find themselves incredibly bored waiting around for the order to retreat. Just then, they manage to spot some soldiers heading further into the mountains, and Cypher decides to ignore his post and go after them. Squall and Zell don't want to leave the guy alone, so they chase after. Along the way, they find a giant telecommunications tower and meet up with a girl named Selfie, who chased after them trying to deliver the message she was ordered to give. But Cypher, like an idiot, decides to rush off and storm the tower instead, forcing everyone else to follow him in. One of these days, I'm gonna tell you about my romantic dream. Oh, for fuck's sakes, this guy. On top of the tower, 2 Galbadian soldiers named Biggs and Wedge are repairing the satellite, and they manage to get it up and running. Despite the world having suffered a worldwide radio interference for the past 17 years, which makes it impossible to send radio waves anywhere. How peculiar. Our heroes never get their answer, as after beating up Biggs and Wedge, Selfie explains that she was told to tell Cypher to retreat back to the boats in 1900 hours. And oh boy, that's 30 minutes from now. So they run as fast as they can and try to escape a giant spider robot that Biggs unleashes onto them. Why the hell does Galbadia have spider robots? Either way, this scene where Quistis saves Squall from the spider is badass. Back at Balam Garden, everyone waits and wonders if they've graduated at long last. And it's pretty clear that Cypher will not. The guy's been attempting the Seed exam for quite a while, and the instructors inform him that he's never learned from his mistakes. Cypher, you'll never be a Seed. Calling yourself a captain is a joke. And for all his bravado, Cypher takes this personally. Hearing that he'll never be a Seed leaves him shaken and defeated. Tough love. But luckily for our heroes, when the time comes, 4 names are called, and 3 of them just happen to be our playable heroes of Selfie, Zell, and Squall. They are now officially Seeds, and they accept their congratulations through Balam Garden's headmaster, a Robin Williams lookalike named Sid. Sid sees the potential in Squall most of all, and is happy to finally see a Gunblade user among its ranks. But yeah, graduation, bitches! Balam throws a special dance in honor of its new recruits. Squall begrudgingly shows up, leans on a wall, and hits the booze. Put it there, man! And Squall once again gives Zell the cold shoulder. What you'll notice most about Squall is that while the guy isn't a prick on the same level of Cypher, Squall is very antisocial and likes to keep to himself. He only really has a friend in the form of his instructor Quistis, and even then, he's real blunt and honest with her and doesn't open up emotionally. I don't want to talk about it. What am I supposed to say about other people's problems? I'm not asking you to say anything. I just want you to listen. Then go talk to a wall. Everyone has to take care of themselves. I don't want to carry anyone's burden. Squall is a closed-off loner, one who doesn't want to be involved in other people's problems, one who just wants to be left alone. But at the dance, he has a chance encounter with a very special woman who notices him standing around. You're the best looking guy here. Well, obviously. I mean, look at him. What a hunk. Let me guess, you'll only dance with someone you like. Look into my eyes. You're going to like me. You're going to like me. What the fuck? And despite insisting that he can't dance, Squall gets dragged onto the dance floor by this girl. And this leads to one of the most memorable scenes of Final Fantasy VIII, where poor Squall is embarrassed out of his mind and can't dance worth shit. Stumbling over himself, bumping into other dancers, it's pretty great. And despite how inept he seems, the girl won't let him go. And that's where it all clicks. We've certainly come a long way since the spinny dances of Final Fantasy II. This meeting would be cut short, unfortunately, as the girl sees someone important out of the corner of her eye. And then the next day happens. Squall's life as a seed begins proper. He gets reteamed with Zell and Selphie, and they go on their first honorary mission to the town of Timber, where they have been paid to help a resistance group known as the Forest Owls. And when Squall meets the leader of the Forest Owls, oh boy, it's the girl from the dance, a woman named Rinoa. And when Squall reads the fine print of Seed's contract, he discovers that he's in this mission for the long haul. He's to serve Rinoa until Timber has gained independence from Galbadia. Wait, what? And that's the setup for Final Fantasy VIII. Once again, Final Fantasy continues to use a modern setting to tell its story just like Final Fantasy VII did. It's a world of cars, trains, guns, and satellites. Although it does go a little more futuristic than 7 did with the fantastical technology. I mean, you look at Balam Garden, and it's a wondrous space school with giant glowy rings at the top. The bad guys have access to giant robot spiders who make Ed 209 look dignified, and then eventually the player has to visit the continent of Estar, and all of Estar looks like it came out of the Jetsons. Glass roads, people wear weird Star Wars clothing, and the place has plenty of transportation tubes to zip you wherever you need to go. And there's some pretty advanced space travel going on in this game as well. But I remember being really enraptured by Balam Garden as a kid. I was still in junior high when I first played the game, but I always wanted to go to a school like Balam. I always fantasized about walking down the clean hallways with their little river streams, or going into the battle training area and just cutting down monsters with my friends. I mean, this was the first time Final Fantasy was really aimed at my demographic. Dumb teenagers. And I loved it for that. Also, I just love Balam Garden's theme song so much. Visually, Final Fantasy VIII is a huge improvement over 7. Instead of having low-poly representations of characters when you wander around the map or get into the story, the characters shared models with how they appeared in battles. So Squall fighting a T-Rex is the same as Squall chilling in his dorm room. I mean, yeah, it wasn't perfect by any means, but for the PlayStation, it looked great. Monsters and enemies also look a lot better. In 7, enemies usually just had one plain color going on, but with 8, every single monster has a texture now. They can add stripe patterns on dinosaurs and wrinkles to a blob monster, and that makes a world of difference when you compare it to 7's early 3D presentation. And every time you use a summon in this game, it still does an incredibly epic animation where Ifrit knocks a meteor down on foes, or Leviathan drops a giant waterfall off of a rock. It's a gorgeous game for the system, and PS1 RPGs don't look much better than this. But looking good and playing good are two very different things. And like I said, Final Fantasy VIII is one of the most polarizing games in the series. When you look at the game on surface level, it looks the same as any other. It's turn-based, you use 3 characters to attack with weapons or cast elemental magic and healing spells, you beat monsters, you get experience, you eventually level up. Why not summon Bahamut? Let's go fight some cactuars! And ride a chocobo! It looks like it would play like every other Final Fantasy. But no, that's not really the case. And this is all because of the new growth system that the game features, the Draw system. Using the various summons, or rather GF, that you find throughout the game, characters will gain certain buffs that allow them to attach magic spells to their person and boost their stats. Magic is a quantifiable property in Final Fantasy VIII, and at the beginning you can only really find it in 2 places. At special swirls of energy, where they just give one person 10 or so of a certain spell, or you can use the GF's draw feature to absorb certain spells out of the enemies that you fight along the way. Depending on the player's strength, you might absorb 3 spells, or 5 spells, or if you're really lucky, you'll get 9 spells from one draw. Right off the bat, Ifrit has the ability Strength J, This makes it so whoever junctions Ifrit to their person can attach magic to their strength stat. The more magic you accumulate, the more powerful you'll be. A person with 5 fires junctioned to strength is not nearly as powerful as someone who maxes out at 100 fires. So, collecting magic is a major part of Final Fantasy VIII, and it is mandatory to even stand a chance in the game. Final Fantasy VIII omits equipment completely. Seriously, you do not buy armor or accessories in this game. If you want to buff your defense, you need to junction magic to your HP, vitality, and evasion. And if you don't have magic for those things, then you're likely to get knocked around. Hell, you can't even use items unless you have a GF equipped. Without GFs, not only are you super weak, you can only attack. You can't draw magic, you can't summon, and you can't crack open a potion or Phoenix down. You have to equip the item ability through summons just so you could use them. Which feels weird. I mean, I didn't need materia to use items back in 7. And now it's time to address the biggest problems with the draw system. Firstly, it doesn't encourage you to use magic. For all the magic that you're collecting, you want those to remain in your stats. You want to hang on to 100 fires so that your melee attacks do the most damage. You want to hang on to 100 cures so that your max HP stays high. But if you try using any of the magic spells that you collect, you are destroying those pieces and removing them from your inventory. And then it's gone, and you have to redraw those 7 thunder spells you wasted on a boss. You have to redraw that super rare Ultima magic that made you a god. And as you'll find out later, that takes a lot of time, and I'd rather not go through the hassle. So you don't use it. You rely on just brute force attacks or call summons instead. I mean, Ifrit uses fire, Shiva uses ice, Quetzalcoatl uses thunder. If I wanted to take advantage of any specific weakness, then I'll just call them down. But hey, the animations, as awesome as they are, can be time-consuming to watch and rewatch over and over and over again. I would recommend getting the boost ability for every summon as early as you can, because at least instead of rewatching animations, you can participate in a button-mashing minigame to make them stronger, and that helps so much when you're constantly summoning the same creature over and over again. So okay, fine. I won't use the magic. I only have to collect 100 of any given spell, right? Well, 100 per party member, yes, so you're expected to get 300 of everything to be nice and powerful. Well, kids, get a pot of coffee, bring out your laptop, put on a podcast, because this is the second problem. Drawing magic is so damn slow. Like I said, if you're lucky, you'll probably get 9 magic spells when you try drawing from an enemy. But that's out of 100 spells that you need to absorb, right? So you're still going to need Squall and his 2 friends to do that at least 7 more times. That means watching the same animation over and over again, making sure enemies don't kill you with their occasional attacks, and really just not doing much of anything. I can't stress enough, make the battle speed the highest it can be, and set the cursor to memory. By setting it to memory, you can just hold the X button down and not worry about having to cycle through the menus manually. And keeping in mind that I had the highest battle speed and memory cursor, I got into a battle with one guy super early, and he had all the big elemental spells, and I wanted them. So I spent the time to absorb all 900 of those spells for my 3 characters. It took me 22 minutes of real-time gameplay to get all of it. 22 goddamn minutes of staring at the TV and holding the X button down. Yeah. I mean, if there's one thing I can compliment about the draw system, is that it did make every single monster feel important. I actually had a reason to try searching for new monster types and fighting in every part of the map that I could. I mean, I'd go to the beach, I'd find some red scaly fish, and oh hey, they have a water spell that I don't have. Oh look, this flan has shell. Gotta take advantage of that. Oh hey, this skeleton has stop. That would be super useful. Hey, the Minotaur has the life spell, so I guess oh man, I just spent over an hour in this one dungeon, and it isn't even that big! Holy moly, this game is slow. Now, I already know what comment you're about to type, and yes, drawing from enemies in battle is not the only way to acquire magic. Eventually, your summons will gain the ability to refine magic from certain items, and in some cases, this makes it super quick and painless. One of the best early exploits is through using the GF Siren. She can refine healing magic from certain items, and that includes any old tent that you can buy in a shop. Using her ability, she can turn 1 tent into 10 Curaga spells. Curaga is the highest level of the cure spell. So you buy 30 tents, and you can easily get 300 Curaga spells for your entire party. And then all of a sudden, your health is through the roof, and that makes so much of the early game trivial when you attach it to your HP. In early game, it's useful to be able to turn an antidote into a bio spell. For those random scales that one monster drops, to be able to produce a few blind spells. It's nice to have options. But as someone who doesn't plan out speedrun routes for the game, I still think you're replacing one form of busy work for another. Let me put it this way. At the end of Disc 2, you come across this giant Cerberus monster, and it has the spell Triple. Triple is a super useful spell to attach to your stats, so much that it'll still be relevant by the time you reach the end of the game. And this is one of the few, if not only, monster encounters where you can get Triple in battle, by the way. So, if you don't take advantage of this moment, well, have fun collecting 300 triple spells the old-fashioned way. I guess you could farm energy crystals, one of the most rare items that only rare monsters drop. Asshole behemoths and ruby dragons who only show up once every 10 battles or so. Oh, but you'll need 50 of them to refine any triple magic. And then you only get like 60, which is not even close to 300, so you still need to collect more energy crystals. Oh, I can get some Samantha souls. Those are even more rare. Oh, I could get... No, even more rare. It takes a long time to get triple, is what I'm saying. Seems a bit much, right? Well, maybe you should have taken advantage of that boss then. When I battle Fujin, you're damn right I'm gonna spend 10 minutes to draw full life. She's got it, it's there, I might as well take advantage. I'd rather spend the time to get Tonberry's rare magic than to waste time trying to collect items and cards and other things for hours and hours with the alternative. Like I said, no matter the method, it's busy work regardless. But I mean, on the other hand, it is still a very unique system. In some ways, I did like the method of appropriating magic to suit my needs. One of my favorite mechanics of the draw system is to junction certain magic to my attacks and defense. Like, let's take the blind spell, for example. If you attach the blind spell to a character's weapon, you will actually inflict the blind status on enemies sometimes when you hit them. And it doesn't waste a magic spell either. You'll still have 100 in your inventory, even if you use the gunblade to blind people. On the flip side, if you junction blind to your status defense, this will make it so you are impervious to blind. Like I said, you don't buy armor, you don't buy equipment. There are no ribbons to wear like in all of the previous games. So you actually have to plan out what GFs you'll use, and use the status defense menu to prevent certain effects from happening. You'll junction 100 confuse spells, you'll never be confused again. 100 silent spells, 100 poison spells, whatever you junction to your defense, you'll be safe from. And vice versa with attack. You can actually equip 100 death spells to your weapon, and sometimes just one-shot enemies where they stand and break the game in two on certain locations. And I can't recommend this enough if you decide to go after a Malboro. They are absolute assholes in Final Fantasy VIII. Fucking bad breath, man. All these status effects on everybody, and I just want to get some tentacles for them to customize my weapons. Ah! So all of that being said, the draw system is very unique, but also very flawed. But I'll get back to the battle system later. So Rinoa and the Forest Owls want to liberate their town of Timber from the Galbadian army, and their plan is pretty high profile as they want to actually capture Vinzer Delling, the president of Galbadia, in the hopes of making him back off and leave Timber alone. So they need high-quality mercenaries like Seed to help them do this. And their first attempt is pretty elaborate, literally switching out the trains that the president is traveling on, replacing them with a fake train car, and slipping away with the real one. But oh no, it's a fake! Apparently the president of Galbadia actually enlists the help of zombie T-virus monsters to be his body doubles. What the shit? Life is so strange. No shit, Max. After this kidnap attempt goes wrong, President Delling arrives in Timber and proceeds to start the first ever TV broadcast in 17 years. But I mean, newspapers exist? And apparently HD cable exists so that most places still have TV, but Galbadia is really adamant about broadcasting to the whole world for this message. Even though, as far as I know, they didn't warn anybody that they might want to turn their TVs on for the first time in 17 years. And how does this even work anyway? I know the point of Biggs and Wedge activating the satellite was to make it possible again, but if that's the case, why did it take 17 years to do this? Why not right away? And later we find out what's caused the radio signals to not work in the first place, and why would the satellite be able to work even though they... fuck it. The point is that Delling wants to introduce the new Galbadian ambassador, and it's a sorceress named Idea. Sorceresses are kind of a big deal in the Final Fantasy VIII universe. They're like Jedi or X-Men mutants, in that every now and then someone is born with the innate ability to control magic. Usually a woman, because they never mention anything about a sorcerer, only a sorceress. But before she could be revealed, all of a sudden fucking Cypher of all people shows up and interrupts the broadcast. Previously, when talking to Renoa, you discover that she actually knows him because they used to be boyfriend-girlfriend. And they're still on speaking terms, apparently, because she blabbed the whole damn plan about kidnapping the president to him. So he busted out of the disciplinary committee to do this and help Renoa out. And Quistis chased him all the way here. Everyone catches up to him and forgets that they're being broadcast across the entire world. Instructor, I know! You're gonna take this stupid idiot back to Garden, right? Nice going, Zell. The jig is up, and everyone knows who to blame should anything happen to the president. And then, the sorceress finally appears. She materializes out of a wall and just happens to know every emotion that Cypher is feeling. His inadequacy of not being a seed, of wanting to have a purpose, of wanting to be taken seriously. You want help, don't you? You want to be saved from this predicament. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. Besides, you're only a little boy. I am not a boy! And then, just like that, Cypher immediately lets go of the president, waves goodbye to the people he was supposed to be helping, and follows the sorceress. God damn it, Cypher. And after all this, it's revealed that the Forest Owl's base was destroyed by Galbadia. It's no longer safe for Renoa to hang out in Timber, so everyone agrees that the best course of action is to report to the nearest garden. Not Valam's, but rather Galbadia's. Lucky for them, Galbadia Garden operates independently of the Galbadian president, so it's still a safe spot for them. They meet with the garden's headmaster, a man named Martine, who is more than willing to cooperate with Cid and Balam. They too don't like the way things are being run, understanding that the sorceress is not going to be an ambassador of peace, but rather one of terror. So there's only one option left. Assassinate the sorceress. Goddamn. To do this, they need to team up with an expert marksman named Irvine, a guy who dresses like a cowboy who basically flirts with any girl he comes across, and he's the last party member to join the group. So our heroes head to Delling City, where the sorceress is scheduled to make her big debut. There's even going to be a parade in her honor, which will make sneaking in a lot easier. There they team up with General Caraway, an inside man of the Galbadian military, who just happens to be Renoa's father. So the father's a top military officer and the daughter's a member of an anti-government faction? Right? No kidding, Zell. And to make things more annoying, after everyone sets off to assassinate Idea, Renoa decides to reach the sorceress personally and attach an Odin bangle onto her, which supposedly has the ability to suppress her powers. Quistis rightfully tells her to stay behind, insisting that this isn't a game. This isn't some father-daughter quarrel, okay? But Renoa ignores it completely, of course. And well, she's no match for the sorceress. I do love the surreal imagery of seeing Idea doing weird magic shit. She has super long hair that goes into her helmet, and then she just springs out this big headdress out of nowhere. It's a unique look. Again, 1999 was the year of Final Fantasy and Star Wars. Now using her magic to brainwash Rinoa, the sorceress approaches the crowd outside, takes to the podium, and explains her platform. Lowlifes, shameless filthy wretches. Oh, sweet Jesus. How you celebrate my ascension with such joy, hailing the very one whom you have condemned for generations. Have you no shame? What happened to the evil, ruthless sorceress from your fantasies? The cold-blooded tyrant that slaughtered countless men and destroyed many nations. Where is she now? She stands before your very eyes to become your new ruler. Well, no one said the sorceress was subtle. And then she just straight up kills the president in front of the entire crowd. And they are loving it! Then she proceeds to make Galbadia great again and transform some lizard statues into real monsters. This is our main villain, ladies and gentlemen. So, time to kill the sorceress. After saving Rinoa from the lizards, Squall and Irvine get up on a sniper's post and wait for Quistis to drop the gates under the archway that Adia's float is to pass under. Oh, and look! Cypher is on top of the float with her. Fantastic. Now, honestly, this plan is pretty stupid. The idea is they want to trap her in the golden archway so that nothing can stop them from killing her. But seriously? You're just gonna freak her out and let her know that something's up. And sure enough... Oh gee, she put up a force field. I wonder why she felt the need to do that. Idiots. So, plan B is just Squall going in, gunblade blazing, and killing her personally. But first, he has to deal with his old buddy Cypher, the guy who gave him his scar, his ultimate rival, one of the most dangerous students from... Oh, never mind, I beat him in 2 hits. Actually, you know what? This makes for a perfect segue. I'd like to call this section of the video, Why I Think Final Fantasy VIII is the easiest game in the series. First off, I already said that you're not encouraged to use magic. Though it is worth mentioning that you can actually draw and cast the magic that your enemies have, and sometimes they'll have good healing magic, or meteor, or something neat that could help you out, and it doesn't waste anything in your inventory. But even still, that all doesn't matter. You can just brute force this entire game and it never presents any real challenge. Squall is a mandatory party member who has a ridiculous advantage over the other characters. For one, there's a timing action that lets you score critical hits. When you push R1 as Squall swings at enemies, he will do double damage. One of the few times that Final Fantasy feels like a Mario RPG. So you want to give Squall priority of strength magic over the other characters, because he hits like a truck. Oh, also, he never misses. I'm serious. The minute you start the game, you'll notice that his default gunblade has 255 hit accuracy. Unless they blind you, Squall is never going to miss any of his critical attacks. Let's talk about limit breaks. They're a returning feature from Final Fantasy VII. Whenever your character gets beat up enough, eventually their health will go down and turn yellow on screen. And when the hit points are yellow, they have a chance of performing a limit break when their turn comes up to help them even the odds a little and get some desperation attacks in there. And the limit break definitely varies depending on the character. Selphie has a random chance of casting tons of powerful magic spells, Irvine fires a round of bullets into someone, Quistis actually needs to absorb certain items that you find in order to get access to a variety of blue magic spells. Some that can give the entire party a protective shield, or even one that allows Quistis to fire machine gun bullets out of her tits. Holy shit, she's a fembot! Squall is very different from Cloud in that he doesn't start off with a single hit move like Braver. He starts off always having access to Renzo Kukin. This is a timing minigame where you push R1 in time with his sword swings, and this guarantees that he's going to hit the enemy at least 4 or 5 times whenever he goes into a limit. But whatever, right? Limit breaks were in 7, they weren't broken in that game. Do you notice that there's no limit meter on screen? In the last game, you kinda had to build up these super moves. But in 8, the only requirement is that you're low in health. So there's a problem here. Or rather, an exploit for you guys watching at home. Sometimes the menu pops up and you don't get a limit break. Okay, so I'll skip to the next character's action by pressing triangle. And if the other characters are building their active time menu, don't worry, it'll reset your menu. No limit break? Push triangle again. Still no limit break? Push triangle again. Oh hey look! I got a limit break! How about that? It essentially means that as long as your health is low enough, you can spam limit breaks the entire fight. Imagine in 7, if every single time you got the chance to attack, you could perform Omni Slash. That's kinda what's going on here, and honestly, some of the limits are just ridiculous when taking advantage of this system. Rinoa has 2 things going on with her. For one, she has a dog companion named Angelo who has some ridiculously devastating attacks. You'll be playing the game, Rinoa takes damage, and sometimes, oh boy, random dog, and he'll just attack people. She actually fucking mounts the dog onto her wrist blade and fucking fires him into crowds of people, causing explosions. And then there's that one move where she rides the dog to repeatedly deal countless hits. Rinoa also has the ability to turn the entire party invisible and invulnerable for a short period of time. And when you can spam limit breaks as much as you want, oh, you better believe that helps. Invincible Moon. All because I chose to walk my dog, who has a kindred connection with the moon. Walk your dogs, kids, and you too might get overpowered. And then we get to Zell, and he's really unique in that he actually performs blitz moves, not unlike Sabin from Final Fantasy VI. But there's like a countdown timer, and you want to see how many moves you can perform in between the segments. I imagine expert players probably get a lot of mileage out of Zell, because if you're fast enough, you only drain like a few nanoseconds until the next attack. Give Zell max strength, keep a combo going long enough, and he could probably wreck Omega Weapon in no time at all. And you'll want to get Squall's ultimate weapon, the Lionheart, because that allows him to perform a very special finisher after doing the Renzo Kyukin, which deals out a ridiculous amount of damage. Keep in mind though that Lionheart has a 1 in 5 chance of activating, and you won't be guaranteed to use it every time you try. But when it does, oh boy. And if you get access to the magic spell Aura, save it for some of the tougher boss fights, because this spell turns your characters yellow, and it allows you to use limit breaks regardless how high or low your health is. Limit breaks are broken in this game. If I'm not brute forcing every enemy with ease, then they get my health down and oh boy, now you've done it. It's silly how trivial almost every fight in the game is. And you don't even need to level up all that much. As long as you're collecting all the best magic that you can along the adventure, you'll be strong. So much so that I had characters who were barely pushing level 20 by the time I made it to the end of Disc 3, and I was still one-shotting enemies in battle. Really? Not even with Squall and his critical hits, just dinky Zell. I guess the designers expected that you wouldn't be stockpiling magic in the hundreds, so they overcompensate by making you ridiculously strong in attack and defense if you do. That's why I two-shotted Cypher. It wasn't because I grinded way longer than I should've, it's because the magic really does just make you that damn tough. Also, this game is the only numbered Final Fantasy that scales the random battle monsters to your level. Like, if you're level 5, the blue bugs will be level 5. If you're level 100, the blue bugs will be level 100. You could potentially reach level 100 before you even go on the Dalit mission. It's time-consuming, but absolutely doable. But you're kinda encouraged not to level up until you're at the end of the game, because with the right magic, level 10 characters can just decimate everything that comes their way. And I was never strapped for cash either. When I refined those 30 tents to get 300 Curaga spells, dudes, I'm a seed. That was chump change. Instead of monsters dropping gil, seed members get paid every 5 or 10 minutes. So you'll just be walking through the world map and boing! Oh hey, I just got some cash. Going through a dungeon and boing! Hey, more money. You only spend money on potions and Phoenix Downs and stuff, since you don't have to worry about weapons, armor, accessories, materia, magic, whatever. You're just going to be loaded with cash the entire time, and the higher your seed ranking, the more cash you'll get. One idea I kinda like about the dialogue system is that, like in 7, you get to occasionally choose what Squall says, but this time you're also going to be judged by how good a seed agent you are. You have to listen to your clients, you have to be heroic, you have to follow the orders that your superiors give you. Even as early as the Dalit mission, the game is judging your decisions and will rank you accordingly. But don't worry about playing Squall like a prick and expecting the game to get harder. In the menus, you can also take seed tests to increase your ranking, so even if you're not acting like a seed, it's really easy to score a high paycheck. You're a privileged white boy. Enjoy it. In summation, Final Fantasy VIII is a cakewalk. People were kind of surprised how quickly I beat the game when I was posting about it on Twitter. The only real troubling part I could think of are some of the puzzles in the dungeons, and the fact that there are a lot of missable things. For example, most GFs are missable. If you're not exploring the extra dungeons to find some, then you need to draw them from certain boss fights. I cannot stress enough, every time you get into a boss fight, look at the magic they have, and you might be able to draw Siren, or Leviathan, or Carbuncle, or whatever. If you don't pick them up now, they're gone. And the only second chance you get to collect them is in the final dungeon of the game. First-time players could miss out on so many refining abilities and stat slots to boost their attack and defense, and it's kinda criminal how easy it is to miss these things. Some things can be obtuse for younger players. For years, I thought you absolutely needed to grab a magazine in Laguna's flashback, otherwise you'd miss out on Squall's ultimate weapon and limit break. Turns out you just need all of the ingredients, then you can build it whenever you want, even as early as Disc 1. Well, that would have been nice to know. Oh god, I didn't even mention Laguna yet, did I? Okay, so throughout the plot, Squall and friends are heading to their destinations when suddenly they feel a sharp pain and pass out. When they wake up, they inhabit the bodies of 3 Galbadian soldiers known as Laguna, Kyros, and Ward. Ward in particular is fascinating because while Laguna uses a gun and Kyros uses knives, Ward chooses to enter battle wielding a heavy-as-fuck harpoon anchor. He actually throws it at people, and then has to run and pick it back up. Yeah, that sounds like a brilliant idea. Anywho, these visions are mostly about Laguna, and he's a chipper, optimistic, and incredibly stupid guy who is just trying to live his life as a soldier. A guy who cramps up at the slightest feeling of tension, who needs his friends and a lot of booze in order to try asking a girl out. Hell, in the first vision, he almost gets together with Renoa's mother, Julia, but passes out on the bed and completely blows the date. Though Julia is still very enamored by Laguna for some reason. We see Laguna's last time working for Galbadia, where Ward gets injured and loses his voice box. We see him settling down in a village, becoming a protector and embracing his new family through a woman named Rain and her daughter Alone. We see him getting cast in a movie and then almost eaten by a real dragon. By themselves, the visions don't seem to contribute much to the main plot, and only add more confusion to Squall as he wonders why this is happening to them. But it is worth noting that at times, the game takes a break with these 3, and we actually get to play them in battles and stuff. And all of the experience and GFs and magic go to Laguna too. So I'm not really sure how this works. Did Laguna, Kyros, and Ward also have Ifrit, Shiva, and Quetzalcoatl? Who knows? The game's art and stuff do try to make it seem like there are 2 parallel stories going on with these 2, but Laguna's story is maybe like 10% of the plot. It'll come up again later, so that's why I'm mentioning it now. Anywho, the assassination attempt? Yeah, it fails. Sorceress Adia manages to stab Squall through the chest with one hell of a blizzard spell, and everybody gets captured and thrown into a prison that actually submerges itself into a desert. So even if people escape, they have nowhere to go. Well, shit. Squall wakes up fully healed, and then Cypher throws him onto a torture device, demanding to know the true intention of Seed. But most of all, Cypher uses this opportunity to brag about how he finally achieved his romantic dream, to be a Sorceress's knight. Motherfucker, I cut you down in 2 hits. Blow me. Elsewhere, a guard roughs up this creature called a Moomba in front of Zell, so he proceeds to beat the guy up and get everyone free. The Moombas appreciate the help, and they also unlock Squall from the torture device as thanks. Moombas are weird. Remember in 7 when Hojo tried to make Aerith and Red 13 breed and have babies? The Moomba is basically what would have happened if Hojo succeeded. How's that for a mental image? Our heroes manage to orchestrate an escape from the prison, and at this point the Sorceress decides to declare war on all of the gardens. She manages to destroy Selphie's original school of Trabia Garden, but thanks to the group splitting up, Selphie manages to offset the missiles heading for Balam by breaking into a missile silo and fucking around with all of the controls. Just hit whatever, push a few buttons here and there. These are missiles designed to destroy things! What are you doing, you fool? You'll kill us all! Squall returns to Balam, warns Sid about the missiles, and it turns out that the garden actually has a function that allows the entire structure to take off and fly around. They just narrowly escaped their deaths, and now we got a school we can drive around in on the world map. That's pretty freaking great. Oh, and then we find out that the headmaster Sid, he used to have a wife. Turns out he used to be married to Sorceress Adia, and it was her idea back in the day to come up with Seed in the first place, even though it was going to be used to hunt down rogue sorceresses like her who needed to be stopped. And while everyone is drifting at sea in the garden, they get boarded by Seed members who claim to work for Sorceress Adia. Zuh? They come in peace, and the only thing they want is to pick up a student. That student's name? Elone, the little girl from Laguna's flashbacks. Sure enough, Squall demands an answer about all of this, and it turns out Elone has powers. She sent them all back in time, hoping that maybe they could change Laguna's destiny and change the past. Squall, exhausted from all the stress in his life, has no time to question her about anything else, as the garden agrees to the request to let Elone go. And now we come to the mother of all big, silly, dumb plot twists. Brace yourselves, guys, this one is pretty out there. While standing around thinking about what they should do next, Irvine recalls a time he was 4 years old and he lived in an orphanage. Selphie chimes in, "Was the orphanage a stone house?" Quistis pipes in, "A stone house by the ocean?" And Irvine's like, "Oh my god, you all remember! Yeah, we all used to live there!" Irvine, Quistis, Selphie, Zell, Squall, and even that jerk Cypher all happened to live in the same orphanage at the same time when they were kids. And get this, the woman in charge of the orphanage was Matron Kramer, aka Sid Kramer's wife, aka goddamn Sorceress Adia. Oh, and Squall had a sister. Her name? Elone. The same Elone who sent everyone back in time. Wow! What an amazing coincidence! What in the hell are the odds of that even happening? So some of you must be asking why no one but Irvine remembered this until now. They were orphans! It was a pretty big defining part of their childhood. They all come to the same conclusion, that their memories are starting to fade away due to them all using Guardian Forces. That apparently there are lots of GF critics who have been suggesting that prolonged use of these magic beasts will cause their minds to deteriorate. And believe it or not, if you know where to look, this wasn't out of left field. I was shocked upon replaying the game, but yes, if you read up on GFs from the first 10 minutes of gameplay, the terminal specifically mentions that memory loss is a possible side effect. You even run into a garden guard who's like, "Ignore GF criticism, okay? There's nothing wrong. You'll be fine. I promise." Even still, this is the big twist of Final Fantasy VIII. It's not quite as personal as a party member dying, or finding out that you're the brother of the main villain or whatever. And it's real contrived and pointless, honestly. They decide that, hey, without GFs, we're weak and useless, so we can't stop now. And they never lose any more memories past this point, so okay, that's a thing. Making them all childhood friends who all lived under the Sorceress is such a ridiculous way of making them feel closer. It could honestly be dropped from the story and not much would change. So what do I think of the story overall? Like I said at the beginning, I'm a bit of a mixed bag. At times, the plot feels like it has a lot of holes, a complete lack of logic, and that its writing isn't quite up to par with the previous games in the series. This game features what I consider to be the weakest party in the series' history. They're all nice teenagers. At times they're played up to be super naive teenagers who sound more like they're 7 years old instead of 17. You're mean. Meanie! There must be something they want to say to the whole world. What can it be? Everybody, love and peace! Alright gang, we'll open! Tee, thanks! Train, take us away, far away. Sometimes these guys can be pretty insufferable, and they're not exactly deep characters. They are the same people at the end of the game as they are at the beginning of the game. They don't have any arcs, no character growth, when the most interesting thing I can say about Zell is that there's a subplot that he might be dating a girl with a ponytail in the background. Yeah, this isn't exactly on the same level of Final Fantasy VII or VI. Last time we played a talking lion, and a robot cat riding a giant Moogle, and we almost fucked a crime boss! Now I stress, I'm talking about the supporting cast, and that's really how you should view all the party members who aren't Squall. They are supporting characters to his story. When I think about what does work about Final Fantasy VIII, it is absolutely Squall's journey. Because I think the writing involving him, his doubts, his anxiety, his frustrations, his conflicting feelings, and the personal growth that he goes through is the most compelling part of the game. He's the first main character in the series to be a hardcore loner, one who often has thought bubbles and inner monologues to let the player, and only the player, know what he's thinking at any given moment. And just listen to some of the thoughts that run through his head. I don't believe in relying on others. Reality isn't so kind. Everything doesn't work out the way you want it to. That's why as long as you don't get your hopes up, you can take anything. You feel less pain. Nothing lasts in this world. Someday you're bound to lose everything. Everybody around you will be gone. Then what are you left with? Nothing. Nobody. It's so miserable. I never want to deal with that again. I can't, even if it means being alone. Not only is he good looking, he's the sweetest guy. A great listener. Right now he's seriously thinking about what I said. I actually kinda appreciate that every time Squall has an inner monologue, the game takes the piss out of how long he's standing there saying nothing. Uh-oh, there you go again into your own little world, and you're not gonna share anything, huh? Yeah, whatever. Whatever. Along with the ellipses, whatever is basically his catchphrase. Things get a lot more intense for our protagonist after the garden starts flying, because at that point, Sid decides to step aside and let Seed focus on taking out the Sorceress, and he appoints Squall to be its leader. Squall's naturally pissed off and freaks out because he didn't ask for this responsibility. He's an introvert who's being forced to take care of everyone, to be the guy people answer to and ask help from. That's a lot of pressure, I mean, holy fuck. Hell, this video was supposed to come out weeks ago, and every day that it was late stressed me out. I don't like people counting on me either. And when you see how Squall reacts to his party members' antics, not wanting to rock the boat, not wanting drama, not wanting to deal with bullshit, but also feeling lonely and feeling like when he dies, no one's gonna care all that much. These are all feelings that I myself have wrestled with when I was a kid. Some feelings I still do. And to me, that is the essence of what makes Squall likable and relatable to me. I just wanted him to succeed, and this story is essentially about him opening up as a person, and learning that he can't do everything alone. And this is all thanks to Rinoa, this woman who continues to insert herself into his life, no matter how much he tries to resist. For Squall, a woman going out of her way to make sure he's happy is weird and alien. I mean, everyone might, get the wrong idea about us. You sound like you want everyone to get the wrong idea. No. If it's so crazy, why do you sound so delighted? Everyone is trying to get us together. It's so obvious, even I can tell. Oh, by the way, this is a love story. Did you guys know that? Could you tell? Yeah? Okay, just checking. Things finally come to a head at the end of Disc 2, when Sorceress Edea takes control of Galbadia Garden and goes after Balam personally. And it's a pretty intense battle as Galbadian soldiers assault the garden on motorcycles and in flying mech suits, the guardians fucking crash into each other, tons of students fight for their lives as everything is on the line. My personal favorite thing? When Squall enters Galbadia's garden, he has to cut through a hockey rink to get to Edea, and oh my god, monster hockey players are trying to kill you! And like the GF memory loss twist, this was also foreshadowed. Apparently there is a hockey team made up of monsters, and students nearly get killed every time they try to compete against them. I desperately want to try the drugs that Square used in the 90s. But this is it. Matron versus the orphans she raised, with Cypher at her side. And like before, I beat him in 2 rounds. Defeated? Useless fool. I'd like to tell you Edea was a challenge, but this game is super easy, so not really. With the Sorceress's defeat, she releases a cloud of energy, and suddenly everyone is super weak. Rinoa approaches Cypher, whispers something in his ear, and he walks away. Then she collapses, and she goes into a coma from which she can't wake up. But most surprising of all, Edea wakes up acting completely different and asks if she's saved alone. Zuh? It turns out the kind woman they grew up knowing did not turn evil after all. Her body was taken control of, possessed by another sorceress known as Ultimecia. Ultimecia is a sorceress who lives in the future, one who wants to capture Alone and use her time powers to activate time compression, to merge past, present, and future into one twisted reality, where I guess she'll rule the world and stuff because she's evil. And evil people do bad things. I don't really know. Ultimecia's motivation and backstory is never really elaborated on. She's bad, she needs to be stopped. Squall can't focus on any of this, however, because Rinoa won't wake up. He never really showed any infatuation towards her before this moment, but now he can't help but feel miserable. He just wants to hear her voice again, see her smile. It turns out Squall cares about Rinoa more than he'd previously thought. So he needs to fix this magical coma Rinoa finds herself in, and he needs to do it immediately. The obvious solution is to find Alone. Tracking down the seed members she went away with, they discover she went to the technologically advanced continent of Estar to meet with the president of Estar, who traveled into outer space. He's doing a routine checkup on Sorceress Adel, a former menace he managed to lock away in a frozen prison high above the planet. Adel used to be responsible for something known as the Sorceress Wars, and it sure would be terrible if she got out again. Alone doesn't have answers for Squall. They tried to change the past, and they couldn't. So saving Rinoa from Edea's blast is likely impossible. But don't worry, because immediately Rinoa wakes up. Sort of. Because it turns out that Ultimecia has been biding her time, laying dormant inside Rinoa until she was brought to an even more powerful sorceress. And there's a sorceress in a prison right nearby. Oh boy. As if that wasn't bad enough, before Cypher took off, Ultimecia told him to find a structure known as the Lunatic Pandora, an ancient monolith which has the power to call down monsters from the moon. Oh yeah, monsters come from the moon. They just jump off, I guess? So because President Delling and Edea are gone, I guess the Galbadian army is Cypher's now? So they activate the Pandora and proceed to pop the moon's biggest zit. Ultimecia possesses Adel, and the wave of monsters push her back to the planet. Rinoa is finally woken up, but unfortunately now finds herself stuck in a spacesuit, drifting out of control and slowly running out of oxygen. And Squall can't take it, so he does the dumbest but most romantic thing imaginable. He leaves the escape pod, puts on a spacesuit, and heads to Rinoa's location, even though they'll have no way to go back to the planet and only a limited supply of oxygen. This may be the end, but at least they'll go out together. Not a bad way to die. I'm just kidding. They don't die because while drifting in space, they just so happen to run into an abandoned spaceship known as the Ragnarok, which had an alien infestation where all the crew died. But they end up killing the aliens, and it still fully functions. Well, gee, that's convenient. But hey, they're going to survive, and they can finally admit how much they mean to each other. And this is when we first hear the big hit song of the game, Eyes on Me.
Darling, so there you are, with that look on your face, as if you never hurt, as if you never down. Shall I be the one for you, who paints you so softly but sure? If frown is shown, then I would know that you are no dreamer.
Performed by VIII, composed by Nobuo Uematsu, this vocal track is honestly pretty beautiful and charming. And this is actually a real song in the game's universe. After having a special date, Julia Hartilly wrote and performed this song in honor of the man who got away. That lovable, leg-cramping idiot we call Laguna. Yes, they just straight up say that Julia made Eyes on Me. So that's a thing. To be honest, this song comes on twice in the game, and I think it's more effective in the ending than it is here. Hell, I thought the song would have been more effective later when Squall has to free her from the prison that the Estar guys try to put her in later. Because at least that's the point where true love conquers all and Squall just owns his feelings forever. But hey, whether you love or hate this game, I think most of us can agree that the soundtrack to this game is phenomenal. Nobuo does it again, and what I like most about this entry are a lot of the quieter themes. Running through the garden, visiting Balam Town, and Fisherman's Horizon, some of the music in this game just puts me in such a peaceful state of mind. I love it. So, long story short, we're basically at endgame. Once we take on Cypher and the lunatic Pandora, we're at the point of no return and we're going to the final dungeon. And honestly, I would recommend making a save point right before Cypher, because you'll get locked out of a lot of things if you just head directly to the ending. I mean, at the end of the game, you can't play Triple Triad anymore. Final Fantasy VII had a huge collection of minigames. Motorcycle chases, chocobo racing, even snowboarding. 8 doesn't go down this road. There's only one minigame really, and it's kind of an action scene where Squall has to fight off this Galbadian soldier. For the most part, any of the cool stuff usually happens in an FMV cutscene. But when it comes to side activities, the game does still offer an interesting side game that plenty of my friends poured hours into. One NPC hands you a deck of cards and tells you that you can play the game of Triple Triad. They even specified that if you push X on people, you'll talk to them. But if you push square instead, you'll challenge them to a card game. Triple Triad's pretty self-explanatory. Each card has 4 numbers facing one of 4 directions, and if you slap a card next to another one, the highest number claims the other card for your side. If you have the most cards at the end of the game, you win. And you can challenge a lot of people. This student over here, Sid in his office, even the fucking cafeteria lady has time to kill when you ask her. The more you win, the more cards you'll get for your collection. It's entirely optional. You're never forced to participate in one game at any point in the story, but hey, it might be a good idea since GFs can refine magic and items from cards. You even get an ability to transform weakened monsters in battle into cards as well. Sometimes finding the right rare card can make you so overpowered so early. When you defeat the GF Diablos, you get his card for doing so, and that can net you 100 black holes, which can give everyone in your party hundreds of demi-spells. And boy, does that help in the early game. Oh, and for some reason there are cards of Squall, Quistis, Cypher, you know, all the main characters. It's a video game, don't think too much about it. I appreciate the freedom you get in this game. As soon as Squall returns from outer space, the Ragnarok is his to fly. You can find tons of optional areas with optional GFs to collect. Like this lone desert island where you can fight a giant cactuar, or an abandoned research facility where you can battle and claim Bahamut. There's one diamond structure that Odin is hiding in, and Odin's a different GF from the others because you don't junction him onto your stats. Instead, Odin just randomly appears every now and then at the start of battle to instantly kill whatever you're fighting. And you can bet that I saw that animation of him riding in and performing Zentetsuken a lot. Sometimes it sucks because maybe I just want to draw magic, and oh damn it, Odin, why are you showing up? Now I have to find this enemy all over again. Bah! Still, I haven't played this game in 9 years, and I got a big nostalgia wave remembering that there were 2 islands with the most dangerous enemies. The island closest to heaven, and the island closest to hell. Fuck yeah! Final Fantasy VIII was the first game in the series to start using the Ara Aga terminology. Usually in previous games you had like 3 spells. Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire 3, but from 8 onwards, all future games and remakes would start using Fire, Fyra, Fireaga, Blizzard, Blizzara, Blizzaga. That all started here. But you know what ended here? I can't customize the colors of the windows anymore. The text boxes should be maroon red, you bastards! In most towns, you can rent cars to avoid random battles, which makes the Chocobo Forests kinda pointless, especially in the PlayStation version, where the Pocket Station minigame was completely removed. Plus, I don't really need to get a car when I can eliminate random encounters thanks to Diablos. So hey. Something I didn't notice until 2017 was how often they reuse backgrounds in dungeons. It's super obvious in the Sand Prison because you have to circle around like 10 times and it's dull to look at, but even the other ones. Which floor of Galbadia Garden am I in? Which side? Can you tell? I'm looking for the Minotaur GF. From this screenshot alone, do you know which direction I should go? Using my critical lenses, I never noticed that a lot of the places you go to often repeat the same background over and over again. Probably to save time and money on designing these things. The dungeons aren't tedious to go through or anything, it's just something I noticed. The game's got optional mega bosses like Ultima and Omega weapons, whose asses I kick thanks to my repeatable limit breaks. Cypher does have 2 friends in the school known as Fujin and Raijin. Besides joining him to Galbadia's side and becoming occasional boss fights, they have very unique speech patterns. Raijin ends most sentences by saying, you know? Like I'm saying this sentence, you know? I posted this video, you know? My favorite Sonic character is Dr. Eggman, you know? And the other character, Fujin, only talks in one-word sentences. Just one word, in all caps on screen. Strange. Bizarre. Confusing. Biggs and Wedge show up a few times too. They end up quitting once Cypher's in charge because fuck that, they don't get paid enough for this. But yeah, we should be wrapping this up, right? I've talked enough about this game, let's get to the ending. Rinoa is now a sorceress, because apparently getting possessed by one infects you with the magic gene. Well, that's one hell of an STD. But Squall assures her that no matter what, he'll never leave her side, and if she ever wants to find him, he'll be here, in the flower garden outside of the orphanage. Lots of exchanging promises and other lovey-dovey stuff. That's when they get called by the president of S-Star to talk about how to handle Ultimecia, and it turns out that the president is actually Laguna freaking Loire, because once upon a time, he tricked Sorceress Adel into trapping herself into a space prison. And that was good enough for the entire country to say, elect this man! He deserves to be in charge of everything! How Laguna keeps falling ass backwards into success, I'll never know. But don't worry guys, he's got a plan for Ultimecia. She lives in the future. We can't kill her because she doesn't exist yet. But what if she was in the same timeline as us? Can't happen. We can't time travel. So we have to do the next best thing. Time compression. Let Ultimecia compress time so that we're in the exact same period, and then we kill her! Wait, what? And amazingly, Laguna's only answer for how we'll go back to the present after killing the sorceress is that we all have to imagine the place we really want to go, and we'll just go there. Love and friendship will save the day, you just have to believe and everything will work out. I appreciate the optimism, but what the hell are you talking about, Laguna? Have you been in a time compression situation before? How the fuck do you know that any of this is going to work and that it can be reversed? This part of the plot feels incredibly rushed. It's like the writers are saying, look, do you want to fight Ultimecia or not? Oh, by the way, have you connected the dots about Squall and Alone being brother-sister? Do you realize who Squall's father is? It's Laguna. And aside from 3 conversations with Laguna, Kuros, and Ward on the Ragnarok, the game does nothing with this information and completely skips out on talking about it. Squall never comments on the fact that he was reliving his father's past. His father! What the hell? So using the Ragnarok, we pound through the lunatic Pandora's shields and meet face to face with our buddy Cypher, who isn't looking too good. His jacket's all ripped up and tattered, the dude's just fighting on good faith that he needs to serve Ultimecia, because reasons. Even Fujin and Raijin are totally done with this and begging him to stop this nonsense. But he just won't do it. He tries to fight Squall and friends yet again, and oh shit! Odin! Well, I guess we're gonna take this asshole out in one hit this time. Oh my god! He killed Odin! You bastard! But don't worry, because something even better happens. Odin's sword flies away, slashing a hole in the sky. The sword is caught by a person with a red sleeve and white glove, and this person's identity is revealed to be goddamn Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy V. What the fuck? He just straight up kicks Cypher's ass, and then wonders to himself, where is the dimensional interval? Apparently in the Japanese version of the game, he brings up Bart's name. This was amazing. At the end of Final Fantasy V, Gilgamesh was left stranded in the interdimensional rift, the space between worlds, and we never really found out what happened to him. Final Fantasy VIII starts a magnificent tradition of occasionally bringing back the character as he finds himself hopping between worlds and ending up in the other games. Gilgamesh would actually be brought back for the remakes of Final Fantasy I and Final Fantasy VI, games he wasn't in originally. He even shows up in Final Fantasy IV The After Years, running into Cecil Harvey and friends. Bart's? What did that mean? Again, this is the same guy that was in 5. It's not like Sid or Biggs and Wedge where they're different people in every game. This is the actual Gilgamesh who served under Exdeath. And you can bet that we're probably going to see Gilgamesh in some of the future games I talk about as well. After beating Cypher, Gilgamesh replaces Odin and occasionally shows up in battles to help Squall and friends. He has 4 swords, and he only uses one when he appears. Masamune and Excalibur, which deal out a lot of damage, Odin's Zentetsuken, which will be an instant kill, and he can also use Excalibur and deal out 1 HP worth of damage. God damn it, Gilgamesh, get rid of that thing! But at last, Cypher is defeated thanks to the greatest swordsman from Galif's world. Just kidding, zoink! Cypher grabs Rinoa and drags her to Sorceress Adel, who I guess feeds off of other sorceresses or something? Either way, aside from the ending of the game, this is the last time we see of Cypher. He never makes any significant redemption, and honestly, I wish they did more with Cypher's character. Adel could have been an interesting boss fight. Rinoa's tied to Adel and keeps losing health as the fight goes on. If Rinoa dies, you lose. But again, I'm so overpowered from the draw magic, there's no real crazy strategy. Attack Adel, don't attack Rinoa. Oh look, I won! But finally, Laguna says, okay folks, we're activating time compression. Good luck, believe in love and friendship, okay bye. And off we go, watching as all of time is merged into one consciousness, floating through time bubbles and oceans and other weird surreal imagery. But at long last they reach their destination, Ultimecia's castle, where she's apparently been busy as tons of dead seed agents litter the pathway leading inside. Now at this point I should mention that we just started Disc 4 and we can't actually return to the world map through some gateways. But there's a reason I highly encouraged making a save point before you fought Cypher. You can find the Ragnarok, you can fly around and battle monsters, still get Bahamut or Odin if you missed them. But you can't revisit towns. There's these weird protective barriers there now, and there's no revisiting older locations. Wanna play Triple Triad? Too bad. Wanna listen to Delling City's theme song again? See what all the NPCs have to say? All of this is blocked off forever. The only shop available in the time-compressed world is a guy hanging out inside the Ragnarok, and boy is he easy to miss. Finding the Ragnarok is tricky enough for first-time players, and if people are running out of items, you just expect us to find that? Now certain GFs have abilities that allow you to shop from wherever you are, but if you missed that GF, this game just got a lot more inconvenient. I like being able to return to towns when I'm at the endgame stuff, Final Fantasy. I still really hate how this whole end scenario is structured. But as for Ultimecia's castle itself, not a bad final dungeon, honestly. It has tricky puzzles to solve, lots of boss fights, and all of your abilities are locked off when you first enter. You're encouraged to hunt down every boss because you get an ability back every time you beat one. You could always beeline for the Sorceress, but you'll be doing so with a handicap. You even have to split up the parties to solve problems, just like with Kefka's Tower in Part 6. So it's good. I like it. But you eventually make it to the throne room and meet with big bad Ultimecia. And boy, does she hate seeds. Locusts across all generations. The price for your meddling is death beyond death. Again, she's not a deep character. Although something interesting happens during this final boss fight. After defeating her first form, she then summons a giant beast to attack you. A GF, actually. And it turns out it has the exact same name as Squall's ring. Griever. Or rather, whatever you choose to call it. Because at one point, Rinoa wants to get a ring exactly like Squall's, so she duplicates it and asks you what it's called. You can name it. Then you get to this fight and all of a sudden your ring is a GF monster. This has made a lot of people come up with theories, the most popular being that Ultimecia is actually Rinoa. Why else would Ultimecia have this GF? What is this GF? Then again, why would Rinoa turn evil and hate all seeds? Hell, Ultimecia doesn't even react to Squall as if he's the love of her life. It's almost like she has memory loss. Because she used GFs, and the GFs made her lose her memory! Oh my god! Or we're just reading into it. But either way, it's an interesting rabbit hole to dive into. Anywho, this boss fight's okay. It has 4 different forms, and is certainly the hardest fight in the game that isn't Ultima or Omega weapon. At first it does this dumb thing where it randomizes what 3 party members will start the match first, but if you drop and kill the ones you don't want to use, they'll get replaced with the ones you do. Still, unnecessary. But first you fight her, then you fight Griever, then she junctions herself onto Griever and you fight the hybrid. And finally it ends as all Final Fantasies do, with Ultimecia becoming a weird god monster. Because of course she does. You'll want to bring Mega Elixirs for this fight, because Hell's Judgment always drops the party to 1 HP, and she likes to perform group spells after doing so. Watch out. Also, I really love the final boss theme quite a bit. It's one of my personal favorites. With Ultimecia's defeat, I guess time compression is over? Squall and everybody else find themselves running through a vast empty void. Careful guys, don't pick the wrong time. Be careful not to fall into a time warp. We didn't think this through! Laguna's a fucking idiot! Renoa figures, I'll just go where we promised, the flower garden, and Squall finds himself in a vast empty desert, which suddenly isn't so vast. Honestly, describing what happens to Squall doesn't do the scene justice. It goes on for quite a while, and it's a lot of distorted old scenes remixed into madness, ending with Squall passing out from shock of seeing Renoa die in outer space. A traumatic thing to experience, I'm sure. But don't worry, guys. True love wins in the end.
I kind of lied it your way, how you shyly placed your eyes on me. Did you ever know that I had mine on you? Darling, so there you are.
Eyes on Me is just a damn beautiful song, what can I say? It even shows how Laguna proposed to Alone's mother, Rain, in this ending. And man, I don't even care that much about the guy, but even I'm getting choked up watching this.
How can I let you know I'm more than the dress and the forms? Just reach me out then and know that you are no dreamer.
During the end credits, we see that everyone is fine and accounted for, celebrating their victory on Balam Garden, and Squall and Renoa are very much in love with each other. They finally kiss and embrace, and the game ends proper. A happy ending. If you ignore all those monsters that drop from the moon anyway. What happened to that? But yeah, that, folks, was Final Fantasy VIII. So, this game is very odd. Like I said before, I have a very complicated relationship with Final Fantasy VIII. I criticized a lot in this video, and for good reason. The draw system is very slow. The gameplay can be very easy. The plot has a bit of bad writing, it jumps all over the place, and it features characters who are either underdeveloped or not developed at all. I could have talked about Norg in this video. I chose not to. He's that insignificant. It feels so weird compared to so many of the games that came before it, and so many of the games that are going to come after. But as you know, I complimented a lot too. The game is gorgeous for a PlayStation RPGs. The backgrounds are exquisite, the monster designs are great, the FMV cutscenes are spectacular, the soundtrack brought me so many memorable tunes that I still listen to this day. I like the world. I like the concept of seeds and Balam Garden, and even that silly gunblade. I like the gunblade. Yeah, I said it. And Squall Leonhardt is probably my favorite protagonist in the whole entire series. The game's writing shines when it's about him and his personal issues. I can let a lot of silly shit fly when it comes to time compression and radio waves, so long as the main part of the story still shines through. The draw system, while slow, is very versatile, allowing us to combine weapons with certain status effects and exploiting the game in a variety of different ways. If you want an RPG that's fun and easy to break, I actually would recommend Final Fantasy VIII, because as slow as drawing magic is, it still flows well enough that I beat the entire thing in about 40 hours. I still like the game's openness, of being able to discover new summons and new secrets. The game is oddly compelling despite being unbalanced. It still delivers the Final Fantasy experience that I want when I play these games. I was never frustrated playing the game, and I wouldn't call it the worst entry in the retrospective so far. That honor still belongs to Final Fantasy II. But I'm not going to say it's amazing either. It's not in my top 5, and I totally get why someone would pass on this game after watching this video. It's still polarizing either way. To the people who love this game, sorry I was so harsh. To the people who hate this game, sorry I wasn't more brutal. Final Fantasy VIII is certainly a black sheep, a weirdo, an outcast, a loner, if you will. But if you had to ask me, Clement, do you like Final Fantasy VIII? I would ultimately have to say, yes. Yes, I do. I'm glad I played it again, and I would gladly return for more. So that took forever, huh? Also, yeah, it was probably like a robot crab instead of a robot spider, but I'm not redoing the voiceover. We got one more game in the PlayStation trilogy to look at, folks, and the only thing I've seen in the last 5 years online has been universal praise. This is a lot of people's personal favorite, and it's next. Stay tuned for Final Fantasy IX.